Hope you're having a great week so far. I loved everything that you sent for your videos this week. Everything is moving forward so awesome, and you fixed so many great things, or even if it didn't need fixed, you improved on so many great things over the last couple of weeks in your practice. So really, really awesome job with all that. We'll start today with looking at the theory. It looks like we got a really good jump start on page 22. We'll start with page 20, and I've got it pulled up here. So page 20, you did a perfect job. We just had one little thing on the very last example. So if you were to look at, let's see, the very last example on page 20, I'll just put it up here. So I'm looking at not the one or the two, first or second, wow, English, okay. Not the first or second measures, but the third measure right here. So in this measure, we have kind of the same pattern twice, right? We have a dotted quarter note followed by an eighth note, and then a dotted quarter note and an eighth note. So when you labeled the first pattern there, the first dotted quarter and eighth note, you did it very, very well. Second one, it looks like we put beat 4 under the eighth note. So remember, your dotted quarter note there would actually get 1.5 counts, right? So that would be all of beat 3 and, plus the first half of beat 4, which would be the 4 part, right? So if we split beat 4 in half, and we have beat 4, and then we have the and, each one of those is half of beat 4, right? 4 and, altogether it's beat 4. So the dotted quarter note we would want to show as getting 3 and 4, and then the eighth note at the end would get the and, or the rest of beat 4. So that was the only, and that's a really little thing to keep track of. It looks like you left off the ands on your 4s, which you of course can do as long as it doesn't affect the rhythm value. So on the other measures, that worked perfectly fine. For this one though, you do have to make sure that you show that the eighth note gets the and, not all of beat 4, because the eighth note should only get half of a count. So that looked really good. Pull up page 22 here. Okay, so yes, page 22, you have some of the most beautiful rests I think I've probably ever seen. Very, very nice job. We just had a couple places that you've filled in so far that I want to go over again, just with making sure that the counts are correct for each measure. So I believe your first line, I'm just double checking here. It's been a few minutes since I looked at it, but yeah, your first line was great. Second line, it looks like on the first measure, we actually left off the rest there. That first measure will also need a rest. And then, let's see, the rest of those look really good. Third line, here we switch to 3/4 time on this example, right? So first measure is good. We've got our half note and then the quarter rest. Second measure, getting my battery notification, sorry. Second measure, remember, we actually only want 3 beats on this one. I think maybe we were losing track of how many we might have needed on that measure. They give you 2 different quarter notes, which means that we already have 2 of the 3 beats, right? So we would actually want quarter rest there instead of the half rest, so that we don't have too many counts in the measure. And then the third measure, so this one was kind of interesting because you did show resting for 3 counts, and I liked that you made sure that you had the half rest and the quarter rest all adding up to 3 counts of resting. Remember though, the whole rest is kind of sneaky because we actually use that no matter what our time signature is to rest for a whole measure. So even though we only get 3 beats per measure on this one, we would still use the whole rest to show that we're resting for a whole measure, okay? So you put in the right number of counts there. It's just one of those little, music theory notation details that you just kind of have to remember over time, because we do actually show that just a little bit differently. And then your last measure is perfect. So it looks like we just have those 2 little things to change here. Let me make sure I'm not, again, missing anything. And yeah, and one of them we just need to add in the rest. I think maybe we just forgot to do that measure. So that's the second line, first measure, we need to add the rest. And then the third line, second measure, we would want to change that half rest to a quarter rest. And then the very last example, that fourth line there, it looks like we just hadn't gotten to that yet, which is totally fine. So if you want to finish that up for next week, you just have the one more line to go, and that looks really good. And then we can also take a look at page 23, because page 23 is basically a little bit of a review. So they've given you, it's essentially a crossword puzzle. They've given you a bunch of clues, and then you have to connect the signs to the terms, and that will tell you what terms you need to fill in the crossword puzzle. So take a look at that and do whatever you can do for next week. Again, we're kind of just, it's not as strict right now, especially while we're doing online stuff. With the theory, just do whatever you're able to do, go at your own pace, and then we'll just make sure that we can at least get something done from week to week, because I know you have homework too, and that kind of can build up sometimes. So we'll try and finish page 22 at least, and at least get started on 23 for next time. And then if you can finish both of those pages, that would be great. All right, let's see. Next, we had the E inversions, which look perfect. So good. It was kind of tough to tell. I wasn't quite sure if what I was seeing was correct on, oh, gotta shift us down here. So on your first inversion chord for your right hand, right, we start with root position, right? And then on first inversion, I couldn't tell if I saw your second finger or your third finger on the B. I thought you might have used your third finger, but I wasn't sure. So I just wanted to check in on that. That one, you should have your second finger on B, which again, you may have done, not totally sure, but just wanted to remind you of that just in case. So you don't have to practice that for another full week. What I would do is just review that the next time you practice. Make sure you have all the right fingering on each chord, and then we'll just move on from that. What we'll start for this week for technique is the A arpeggios. So you do already have this paper. That would be your arpeggios for D, A, and E major. And these will work, again, the same fingering and number of octaves and approach that we've done for all of our other arpeggios up to this point. So it will be 4 octaves. Again, you'll have to make sure you kind of keep track of how many A's you've played. Remember, that'll be a total of 5 A's from start to finish for each hand in order to make it 4 octaves. And you'll have all the same fingering. So your right hand will start on A, C sharp, and E with 1, 2, 3, and then you'll cross under. Your left hand will start with your 5th finger on A, and then you play 3, 2, 1 all the way up for C sharp, E, and A. Okay, and then you'll come back down as well. I would start that hands alone. Again, just working at your own pace here. When you're ready, go ahead and start putting it hands together, and should be good to go. So we'll be able to check in on that next week and see how that's coming. All right, Hannon, excellent job going up. Totally fixed that last measure that we had from the previous lesson, and pretty good tempo already too. Plus, you already put coming down hands alone. So I think either the recording cut off or you hadn't actually come all the way down on the descending pattern, which is fine because you have a really, really good start and everything that you did looks great for coming down. Can't believe you already put it hands together. Good for you. And so what we'll do is we'll just have the whole thing with both hands for this week. We're going to be securing the pattern. It looks like we've pretty much got a good handle on it. If you were missing a measure or two, you fixed it pretty quick in your video. So I'm feeling pretty confident about that. That's looking great. Yeah, and we'll just get confident with the pattern both up and down for this week. All hands together. Very good progress. All right, Marine's hymn, looking great. I'm getting so excited I can't speak. Your rhythm is so much better. You did such a great job working from the demo that I included in the last lesson video and fixing all of those rhythms. It sounds fantastic. So I hope you're happy with that one. We'll go ahead and move on from that in our lessons from this point. If you want to add that to your review list, that would be fine. And then the Tarantella was the other song that we had, and the B section is so good. I am so excited about that. Rhythm, notes, all of the hand motion, you just managed that so well. So happy with that. So the DC All Fine, I'm going to open up to this one here. if you notice at the end of this one, we see at the bottom this DC al fine here, right? So the DC stands for da capo, so the whole phrase is da capo al fine, and that means we're basically going to go back to the beginning and play until we see fine, which means the end. And if we notice back up here on the second page, this is where we see fine, right? It's at the end of the A section. So we don't end the whole song here, right? Otherwise this would never happen, and why would it be there? Instead, we play through the whole piece, and then we go back to the beginning, play through this section again, but here's the fine. And also, if you notice, that's where our double bar line actually is. It's not down here. We get the little skinny double bar line to show us that we've ended this section, but the song isn't over yet. So this is where the actual end will be, which means your form will be A, B, A. Okay, a very, very common form that we have seen. So that is that part. So that just means that when you practice it this week, once you play through the whole page, you'll actually go back up and repeat the A section to end the song. So speaking of the A section, a couple little things to make a note of for this week. The first thing is that in measure 3 and measure 7, your left hand actually has an F sharp for your bottom note. I think we're maybe missing that sharp when you're reading through all of your notes there, which is kind of funky because they have it way off to the side of the chord. I think it's kind of easy to just skip over that as you're reading your notes, but we do want the F sharp there, not the F natural. So I think you'll maybe like the sound of that a little bit better too. It'll hopefully sound a little bit more like it's creating the right kind of tension for the song instead of kind of a little bit more of a unusual sound there with the F natural. And then we just have a couple rhythm things to take a look at for next week. So I actually think what I'm gonna do is just play through that for you so that way you can hear it. I think when it comes to rhythm stuff, hearing it is usually the most helpful strategy, so that way you can kind of get it in your head and feel the rhythm instead of trying to be more analytical with how you approach it. Obviously, we want to be able to figure it out either way, but especially with this kind of lesson that we're doing now, I think that'll be more helpful to you to have something to reference and to be able to hear it. So let me do that for you. I'm just going to play through it here so that you can hear the A section with all of the rhythm, okay? So you can hear with those F sharps too, right? Gives it a little bit more of that tension before we resolve it back to the G minor chord there. All right, so hopefully that helps you out with the rhythm. That is, I think, about the same tempo you were doing. That might be a little bit faster, but either way, that should hopefully help you hear how that should all come together, okay? And then the other thing that we'll do is we will get started on a new song. Next month, we are going to start getting into some Christmas music. So we will kind of I also haven't got all these new books for you. I have another book for you that we'll be working through along with this one, but we're probably going to hold off on getting started with that, just so that we can not have this book and Hanon and Technique and Theory and Christmas and the other new book all at once. Be a little bit much. So instead, we will start a new song in here, and then in a couple weeks probably we'll get started on some Christmas stuff, and a little bit after that I'll have that other new book available for you. All right, so the next song we're going to do is called Sailing. It's on page 33. This one I think you'll enjoy because the melody is actually kind of fun. It almost feels more like something that you would hear as a melody on the radio or in more of like a song with lyrics, because it's a little bit more musical and it's very classic melody in the right hand, accompaniment in the left hand of a arrangement here. So we're going to get started with that. Now, if you notice, you have nothing in your key signature. So you're going to be in the key of C major here, no sharps or flats to keep track of in the key signature. But we do have a little bit of a different time signature. This one's going to be in 6/8 time. So you'll have 6 beats per measure, and the 8th note will get 1 count, okay? So you have pretty much just a lot of chords in the left hand. We're gonna just get started with the first 2 lines for this week. They give you a pretty straightforward map for where your fingering should be and where you have fingering changes. Anytime you have to move and your chord changes for the left hand hopefully won't be too crazy. It's a lot of the same stuff that we've already been working on as far as using our inversions, just like on the tarantella to go back and forth from different chords. Your right hand, though, will bounce around a little bit more here. The nice thing is whenever you have to physically move your hand to a new place or to change the note that your finger was on before, they actually put the finger number in a circle for you. So if you notice on the first line, they kind of get you set up with some finger numbers here, right? But then at the end of the line, we have to move. And so they still show you where to go, but you kind of get that extra help by saying, oh, another battery. No, this goodness, sorry. By saying that not only do you need to pay attention to this fingering, but also heads up, your hand is going to have to move here. So that is kind of nice that they do that. You shouldn't have any problems with figuring that out. You'll notice that you also have a lot of dotted quarter notes on this one. So remember in 6/8 time, the dotted quarter note will get 3 counts. It's going to take up half of the measure. So this whole piece, it's kind of interesting that it's called sailing because it's going to kind of have that rocking on a boat back and forth feel, right? We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It should feel sort of reminiscent to actually sailing on a boat. So we will kind of read through each hand for this week. What I want you to do for me for next time when you send your video stuff is to just send a recording of playing through each hand by itself, okay? That way we can take a closer look at any notes that we maybe need to adjust or any fingering that we need to adjust, and then make sure we can take a look at the rhythm too before we put hands together, okay? All right, I think that is everything. So have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.